Evening, everyone, and thank you for joining the session today. We appreciate your attendance. We appreciate you coming to the session. Thank you, everyone's time. Today, we will be providing an introduction about SAP FI and CO. The purpose of this session today is to provide a high-level overview. It is obviously very high level because in 1 hour and so whatever we have, it is going to be an overview. The objective is that whenever we start any SAP FICO class, we always like to provide an overview. And by providing an overview, people can understand different functions, different features, different capabilities, different processes at a high level. So at least we can understand what kind of different functions and capabilities are there in SAP. So this is an overview. This is an introduction. And this is in providing a perspective to the people that when we talk about SAP FI and CO, that what kind of functions, what kind of capabilities SAP FICO consists of. So we're going to talk about both. We're going to talk about FICO, FI, and also we're going to talk about FICO. Let me briefly introduce myself. I've been doing SAP last 20 years and done many implementations, taught many classes, many people. Introduction to SAP financials. When we look at any company for that matter, of any nature of business, in the bottom, we have an operational aspect. Operational means activities which you will do on day-to-day basis. That is operational. Then we have a tactical, and then we have a strategic objectives. Now, you can also talk about lower management, mid-management, and senior management. So that basically means what kind of information lower management will require, what kind of information high management will require, what kind of information mid-management requires. When you're running a business, then every one have different expectations and different set of information which is required to understand the company. The overall idea of FICO module is to understand your company from the finance and controlling perspective, to understand what kind of functions and what is the health of the company from the finance perspective, from the controlling perspective. So it provides information, operational perspective, it provides from tactical perspective, and it also provides information from a strategic perspective. Normally that is for the high management. Now, some of the terms which we're going to talk about, the first and foremost, the term which is used in FICO is called company code. Company code. Company code represents organization entity from the legal and external reporting perspective. Now, what do you mean by external reporting perspective? So let us take an example of Pepsi or Coca-Cola or Johnson & Johnson or any company for that matter. So let's take Pepsi. So when we talk about the Pepsi, you have a Pepsi US, Pepsi Canada, Pepsi US, Pepsi China, Pepsi India, Pepsi Nigeria, and Pepsi company everywhere in the world. When we're talking about all these different companies, each company is a separate legal entity. Pepsi China is different than Pepsi US. Pepsi US is different than Pepsi Mexico. Pepsi Mexico is different from the Pepsi Canada. Although they are part of the same parent company, each of this company represent a separate legal entity. That legal entity which is responsible for external and internal reporting is called company code. I use the word external. External basically means your company is required by law to produce balance sheet, is required to pay taxes, it is required to put your profit and loss. Specifically, if your company is a public company. Who does that? That is done by company code in SAP. In SAP, by using company code and also several other structures, we will talk about them: operating concern, controlling area, company code, and various other consolidation information. Each of these entities can be consolidated. Each of these activities can be linked. And that is called a structure of companies. So here I have a Pepsi US, this is in US, this is in Canada, this is in Mexico, this is in China, and you have entities spread everywhere. Then you have certain group, and then you have a regional, and then you have a by country. Within the country, you can have it is possible that Pepsi US within the US have 3 companies. And then you have one in you have 10 companies in North America, you have a few in South America, then you have Europe, you have in Asia, you have in Africa, you have in Australia, and you can connect each one of them for consolidation perspective. And that structure of the company can be represented in SAP FICO. Now, within SAP FI module, you have several sub-modules within SAP FICO module, FI module. Now, what are the different functions which we have in SAP FI module? So first and foremost, we have a general ledger accounting, account payable. Account payable basically means when you're making payment outside. For example, you're making payment to your vendors. So when you're making a payment to your vendors, that is called account payable. You have account receivable, other function which you have in SAP FI module. Account receivable when you're receiving the money. So for example, you're receiving the money from the customer, and that is part of account receivable function. Then you have a bank accounting, and that is another function which you can have in SAP. That is, bank accounting. Bank accounting basically means when you're doing bank transactions, bank statements. Asset accounting. In your company, you can have a different assets, a different asset class. You have a different kind of you have vehicles, you have offices, you have furniture, and you have a plant, machinery, equipment. All of them could be different assets, and then you can manage those assets, their depreciation, etc. Then you have special purpose ledger, which is for consolidation. You can also have a fund management, which is basically managing your budgets. Travel management, when you have a company where a lot of people are traveling to different locations, you want to keep track of their travel. You want to keep track of how the travel can be managed. So that is where the travel management come into the picture. Then obviously we have a legal consideration, and the legal consideration is when you are putting different kind of consolidation from the legal perspective. General ledger. GL or general ledger is a master data. SAP called this master data. So when you are making an expense, when you are you're liable to pay to a vendor, when you're eligible to receive the money from customer, ultimately all those financial transactions happens at a GL level. So if you look at here on the left-hand side, we have purchasing cycle. And the right-hand side, we have a sales cycle. So in the purchasing cycle, you're doing the purchasing, and at the end of the day, your vendor is your creditor. When your vendor is a creditor, when you're doing a vendor invoice verification, you are crediting your vendor. When you're crediting a vendor, the final, the posting that you owe $10,000 or $5,000 to this vendor, that goes into some GL. When you're doing sales cycle, and at the end of the day, when you're making a customer invoicing, at that time it updates your revenue. Then you are debiting your vendor and your customer here, and also you're crediting your revenue. So that vendor account is getting updated, your revenue account getting updated, your tax amount getting updated, and many other accounts possibly. And ultimately, everything ends up going into general ledger. General ledger is a master data, and that master data integrate or can integrate to any function. That can integrate to your purchasing, can integrate to your sales, with the vendor payments, your customer payments, your assets. You have a different kind of assets. You're taking depreciation. Ultimately, they get posted to GL. You're doing HR. You're paying to your employees your salary. You're paying them wages. That salary and wages, it's also getting paid into a different GL. It's getting paid in different GL. And that you can do in SAP. And then we have, GL, some other specific purposes. Now, a couple of things: automatic and simultaneous costing. Now, this word automatic I highlighted in the red color, and that is important term. Automatic basically means when I'm talking about I'm crediting my vendor at the time of vendor invoice verification. That posting the vendor account, I'm not doing manually. I can do manually if I want to, but system does that automatically. When I'm doing invoicing to my customer, when I'm posting it to my revenue account, then posting the revenue account is in the behind the scene, there is account posting happening. So there is something called account determination process. So for most of the accounts, for sales account, for purchase account, for liability account, for cost account, for assets account, for banking account, AR or AP, or inventory accounts, because at the end of the day, when you're evaluating your inventory, that is also your that also goes to account. Almost all these accounts can be posted automatically. That is a very important point to understand, that we are not doing these posting manually. So when I do my sales cycle, when I do my purchase cycle, when I'm doing my asset accounting, when I do my customer invoice, when I do my vendor invoice, when I'm making a payment to my vendor, when I'm paying my salary to my employee, when I'm receiving the money from customer, when I'm doing all these different business transactions, and that will be done by salesperson and a finance person and business person of the production and inventory. But behind the scene, with all those logistic transactions, financial transactions are happening automatically. And that brings a true integration of SAP from different functions, all different functions. So when we're talking about in the last slide, I talk about purchasing cycle, I talk about sales cycle. In the different stages, when I'm receiving inventory, it is updating my inventory account. When I'm doing making my vendor invoice, it is hitting my vendor invoice. When I'm making a payment to the vendor, again it is hitting my GL. When I'm doing my asset accounting, it again hitting the, but all those GL do get updated automatically in the background. We are not updating those vendors manually. And that is one of the very important and powerful engine where you can do automatic posting. And there is also simultaneous. So you have a automatic posting and you also have simultaneous posting, because you might have a financial general ledgers and you must have a cost accounting, and both of them get simultaneously updated as well. So for example, if I'm having a, when I'm posting an entry for my good moment, when I'm issuing the material to my customer, and if I'm issuing the material to my customer, and if this is a free item, I want to capture the cost of that item to my sample account. I want to capture the cost of that sale of the product to my marketing account. I want to capture the cost of that item to my promotion account and promotion cost center. So the posting to the financial accounting and the cost controlling happens simultaneously. And that's the true power of an integration. So general ledger is a complete record. So all transactions, AR, AP, this, that, payment to the vendor, this expense, this payment, incoming, outgoing, all of them automatically get updated to a GL. When I say word automatically, if you want to make manual adjustment also, if you want to make a manual posting also, of course, you can always make a manual posting as well. So it's not that every entry always has to be automatic. Yes, it can be automatic, but it doesn't need to be. Some accounts need to be posted manually, for example. Chart of account. So chart of account, in SAP, we call it an organization structure. So chart of account is called as an organization data. So chart of account is nothing but a schematic, a schema group of different general ledger. Group, schema of different general ledger is called chart of account. Now that schema of different GL is presented in prescribed manner. In chart of account, you can have a hierarchy. You can have a tree structure. You can have an expense account. You can have a revenue account. You can have a cost account. You can have a different inventory accounts, purchase account, and you can group accounts in different buckets, and you can also put these accounts in different hierarchies. GL account can be contained by one or more than one company code, but each company code must have a chart of account assigned to it. You cannot have a company code without chart of account. That is not possible. SAP allow you to have a country chart of account. If you see 3 yellow boxes, you can also have an operational chart of account. You can also have a group chart of account. Country chart of account is in only specific cases. For example, if certain country has some specific legal requirements, you create a chart of account for that specific company for external reporting, taxation, and all that perspective. But everybody will have an operational chart of account. Operational chart of account is the most extensive and most detailed. It has all different GL, which will go to different operational accounts. And then you can have a group chart of account. In the group chart of account, basically where you can combine for the consolidation purposes. So this is at the country level. For example, you have to create a balance sheet for a specific country, taxation for a specific country. Operational chart of account, which is the most robust, most common, most detailed, most comprehensive, most detailed, goes into this. And group chart account is primarily used only for the purpose of consolidation. Now, this picture, which you look at it, summarize various functions. Summarize various functions which you can have in SAP. So chart of account, and chart of account goes everywhere. Chart of account goes to financial accounting, it goes to cost accounting, it goes to the COPA, cost center accounting, profit center accounting. So chart of account is org structure, is a schema of different general ledgers, and you can have as many as general ledgers as possible. It is not just a randomly, it is a predefined, pre-structured listing of different general ledgers, which is schematically divided, which are schematically defined. So in that, you can have a chart of account, financial accounting, cost accounting, equity, special general ledger, your tangible, intangible fixed assets, material in stock, your ARAP, your cash account, primary cost element, revenue account, production cost account, secondary cost elements, your closing. Then you can have a COPA. I will talk about what is the COPA. COPA stands for Controlling Profitability Analysis in CO. And then we have not talked about, there is something called cost center accounting. We're going to discuss that. There is something called order and project accounting. There is also product costing. There is also profit center accounting, which is part of controlling. But one thing is for sure, that each one of them, behind the posting, there is a general ledger. General ledger is the most critical and most broadly, widely used master data org structure in SAP. And chart of account is a schema of different GL, which is predefined in different buckets, different layers, different buckets and different layers. In SAP, you can also have asset accounting. In asset accounting, you can have different kind of assets. You can define different kind of asset classes. So you have a asset class for your plant, your machinery, your equipment, your offices, your buildings, your vehicles, and so on and so forth. You can have as many as depreciation asset classes as you want. And apart from the asset classes, for each asset class, you can also have a depreciation method. So you can define different depreciation methods. Asset accounting in SAP goes through the entire asset cycle. Entire asset cycle. Life cycle of asset. Asset has a life cycle. Now, when I say asset has a life cycle, what do you mean by that? So that basically means asset take a birth one day, and then asset die one day. So for example, I purchase a machine. If I purchase a big machine for my production, then when this comes to my door, when I receive that machine in my plant, at that time, I can do capitalization. I can do capitalization. I can capitalize my machine. And when I capitalize, asset take birth. And then asset, we can define life cycle. So this asset is for 5 years or 10 years, then 20 years, 1 year, 6 months, whatever. So you have life span. And for every 5 years, you take a depreciation. You can define different depreciation methods, straight line, this and that. And after the 5 years, when the life cycle or lifespan of this product is over, then this product that asset retire. So from the starting, birth of an asset, creating asset master data, and the end of asset where you basically retire asset as well. Now, so far, all my discussion was related to FI module. So let me recap what we have discussed, what we have talked about as far as SAP FI module is concerned. So in SAP FI module, we mentioned the first and foremost in FI CO, it provides you an operational view, tactical view, and a strategic view. It is like a lower management task, mid management task, and senior management task. Everyone has a different requirement for the information. Everyone has a different requirement of information. Now we talked about there is something called company code. Company code is an organization data. Company code represents legal entity. Company code represents legal entity which is actually responsible for external reporting. So for example, balance sheet. So balance sheet, which is needed for external reporting, is required by law when you are a public company. That balance sheet is created by company code. So I took an example of Pepsi. For example, if it's Pepsi US, Pepsi Canada, Pepsi Mexico, Pepsi China, Pepsi UK, Pepsi France, Pepsi India, Pepsi this, all these different companies, although part of the same corporate, but by law, Pepsi US and Pepsi Canada or Pepsi Mexico are three separate legal entities. In fact, within US, Pepsi can have a multiple legal entities as well. That legal entity in SAP is represented by company code. Then we talked about there is something called chart of account. Chart of account basically has organized structure. It's a schema of different general ledgers. Those general ledgers are presented, structured in different, in predefined, pre-prescribed schema. They are bucketed. So you have a one bucket for expense and one bucket for revenue, one bucket for this, one bucket for that. And then you also have a hierarchy. So for example, when you say revenue, within the revenue, you can have another layer. You can say I have a revenue domestic, a revenue foreign. Within the domestic revenue, you can have another layer. Revenue product A, revenue product line B. And within product line B, you can say product subgroup A, product subgroup B. So chart of account is a bucketed, grouped, and it's also have a hierarchy of different GL, which you can define as per your company's requirement. Then we talked about an important concept that in SAP, when you talk about financial postings, when you talk about the posting to a GL, and posting to a GL in SAP happens in most cases automatically. So when we talk about the revenue account determination, when we talk about asset account determination, when we talk about our cost account determination for payment to your vendors and your account determination for your different assets and your different kind of inventory, different kind of bank transactions. So all those different transactions which you're doing in AP or in AR and asset and other places, account determination of posting to a GL happens automatically. So when I'm making an invoice posting for a vendor, then account posting happen automatically. When I'm making account posting, when I'm creating invoice for a customer, then account posting happens automatically. So these are the different account postings which are taking place in the system. Then we talked about in FI module, we have a different module. And the most important ones, some are not that broadly used, but the most broadly and most critically important ones are GL accounting, account payable, account receivable, bank accounting, and asset accounting. And then you have some other also, travel and others, which is not that very commonly used, but they are also there. So within finance, you have a general accounting, account receivable, account payable, asset accounting, and bank accounting. These are some of the important functions and features in FI module. Now, from the FI module, now we are going to controlling module and understanding what is the controlling. Now I again go back to my operational requirement, my tactical requirement, and my strategic requirement. So when we talk about finance, so finance in most cases is providing my tactical requirement, providing my most cases my tactical requirement, providing. Now when we talk about controlling provides different information. So controlling are providing information for the management decision making. Controlling is providing your variances by measuring what is your actual and what is the planned. So variances. Now, when you say variances, what do you mean by that? If you take an example. So for example, I've defined a budget. In the budget, I put what is my plan. And then you can also track what is your actual. I have defined a cost for the promotion, $10,000. That's my budget. But how much I got? Do I got more or do I got less? And that is where system provides, and that information of your planned data versus actual data, providing the variances, is done by controlling. Now, another important point is to understand that FI and CO are two independent components. They are two different modules for all practical purposes. But all data to the cost flow automatically to CO from FI. So the door to the controlling is through FI. So it's a finance get updated, and then behind the scene automatically your controlling get updated also. So both get updated automatically. Can you show us how the system look like? Yeah, sure. We'll show you what system look like. So that is where we can talk about what is the data coming to CO from the FI. Now, at the same time, you can assign the cost and revenue to different CO accounts. So for example, cost centers, your project, you have orders. So let's take an example of a project. So you have a project going on in your company. Your company in the business of installing the project. So like we were doing this very recently in a company, this company in the business of setting up the solar systems. Now when they're installing the solar project, they're incurring cost. And then they're also incurring revenue. And then there's a plant cost. then there is actual cost, then there is a planned revenue, there is actual revenue, and that cost accounting you can do in FICO. So this is the picture which you are seeing again, which you saw before. So first and foremost, in the bottom we have FI, which is operational data. Then we have a tactical data and a strategic data, and controlling provides you a strategic and tactical data. That is what controlling provides you. So that is how this is connected. So FI provides you operational data, CO provides you tactical and strategic data. Now let us understand what kind of a functions, what kind of a modules, what kind of sub-modules which are there in SAP FICO. Now in SAP FICO, we can have a cost element accounting, we can have a cost center accounting, we can have internal orders, cost controlling, profit center accounting, and profitability analysis. These are some of the sub-modules within FICO module. You can also have something called cost center hierarchy. So cost center, you can define whatever way. So for example, I have a marketing cost center. But within the marketing cost center, you can have a different subgroups. You can have a marketing a product in European marketing and Asian marketing and other marketing, and within product marketing, you can have further hierarchy. You can have a cost center for these products, cost center for this kind of product. So you can have a complete cost center hierarchy. And you can have a cost center hierarchy whatever way you want. You want to have by products, you want to have it by organization, you want to have other parameters. There is no such limitation that what kind of a cost center hierarchy or what kind of cost centers you will have. Normally, cost centers are defined organizationally or they are defined by the product. Now, after the cost center hierarchy, the second thing is the profit center hierarchy. So cost center accumulate the cost. Profit center accumulate the profit. So that is the fundamental difference between cost center hierarchy and the profit center hierarchy is. So cost center accumulate, get only cost. Profit center accumulate and get profit. So that is the fundamental and primary difference between the both. Cost center hierarchy and profit center hierarchy. Then there is SAP also has something called COPA. COPA means profitability analysis. COPA, you can assume like a mini business intelligence or BI. So now in the BI, you have if you look at here, there's something called dimensions. In the dimension, you have like a market dimension. You have like a product dimension. You have like a nature of the customer dimension. You have a time dimension. And you can define as many as dimensions as you want. And for each of these dimensions, you can have various key figures and characteristics. So by different key figures and characteristics, SAP allows you to do profitability analysis in your company. So for example, you want to do, if you look at this picture here, you want to do profitability analysis for your US market versus Canadian market, for product A versus product B, for your retail customer versus wholesale customer, this year versus last year, this quarter versus last quarter. You have a 4-dimensional view. And these are 4 dimensions, you can have as many as dimensions as you want. So controlling module is used for gathering information, primarily used for management decisions on financial key figures. It gives you your planned and actual cost. It gives you your planned and actual revenue. It gives you your variances. It allows you to do analytics by different key figures. It allows you to do by the different dimensions. Like in the last picture, I showed you in a picture of a profitability analysis by 4 dimensions. But these are the 4 dimensions, just an example. It doesn't need to be these, or you can have a more. You have a dimension of product, you have a dimension of time, you have a dimension of customer, and you can have as many as dimensions as you want. And that is a valuable information for the senior management for the management decisions. And that is where controlling comes into the picture. Okay, so now talking about, okay, so before I go there, let me also log into the system. Somebody asked me. So, let me log into the system. Okay, oh, a couple of slides for some reason got fast moved. Okay, so let me talk about and log into the system first and foremost. So let me log into the system. So this is SAP GUI. Double click on it. You put your ID. You put your password. And you can log in. And then this is how SAP look like anywhere in the world. What SAP has done, this is a standard SAP menu. So here we have Office, which is more of communication and all that, some cross-application components. This is where we have a logistics, accounting. Logistics has a different modules like materials management, sales and distribution, production, quality management, and others. And then this is the accounting. So from the process perspective, entire SAP is divided into 3 categories of processes: logistic process, accounting process, HR process. Information system, this is the inherent inbuilt reporting within SAP. So if you go back here, you will see different kind of reporting. And then these are tools. This is where you can see if you want to do configuration, you go to tools. If you want to do, you have to write any kind of program, you have to go to tools. So that is where the tool is there. So ABAP Workbench, which is basically means if you're writing any program, you will go to Workbench. ABAP programmers, developers will go there. Customizing, that's where you will go, because customizing is one of the very important tasks for functional consultants like you. So then you go to customizing. Administration is done by the basis people or administrators or NetViewer people. They have to, take care of the system, database layer, on system performance, security, and other things. That is all tasks for administrator. ALE means application link enabling. That is SAP's inbuilt integration, and there are many other technical tasks. Now, if you go to accounting, so in the accounting, there are various functions actually. This is where you have a financial accounting. In the financial accounting, this is where we are talking about different sub-modules within the financial accounting. Of course, we don't have a time to go through any of these functions. I just want to show you the menu path and all that. That we have a general ledger accounting, account receivable. That is where you receive the money from customers. Account payable, when you're paying and taking care of to the vendors. your contract accounting, your banking, your fixed assets, your special general ledger. And if you go anywhere, if you want to make a document entry, if you want to do an invoice posting for your customer, and you can do your invoice posting. That is the vendor invoice posting. You put a vendor number, you put an amount, and different information, and you can post vendor count. If I want to exit out, okay. If I want to go to see some kind of account, master record, my balances, if you have any kind of account, if you want to see it, some basic transactions I'm sure. This is in this account, this is the credit entry, debit entry, what is the balance, accumulative balance. If you want to go to any of the detail, you can go to the detail also, drill down in those transactions also. So this is, you go back to the detail. In the detail, this is my vendor, this is my company, this is Stepo, the company there in Hartford. In this company code is a document number. This was posted on 5/12 in my month. This is the document it was posted on. You can drill down to the document. So this was the document was posted. This is my GL account. You can see other data also. You can go to header data. And you can see it's posted by this user, is a reference IMD, changed on this login system. Transaction code, which was executed by Miro, that is the vendor invoice transaction code. If you want to see any additional data, you can see additional data, amount, group currencies, and others. And it allows you to, dip down. So your account balances, you can create your master record. Same thing in the part account payable. If you want to go to, your account receivable, so you can maintain a documentary. If you want to post, create an invoice. That was the last one, vendor invoice. This is a customer invoice. You put a customer number, invoice date, your account, your GL amount, and you can post. Now, if I want to see any, customer account balance, how much is the account balance is. I select, just randomly I selected one of account. This account doesn't have any posting. If any of these account has any value, it will show. If there's any account posting has been done for it. If not, and these are all different accounts which has been created in the system. These are my customer account balances. There is no data. And back in account payable, account receivable, general ledger. If you want to post an entry to any GL account, you can post an account. So you can post to the customer, you can post to vendor, you can post to a GL. You can create the records. If you want to go back from the financial accounting and general ledger, let me go back to this is banking. If I go to fixed assets, so here in the fixed asset, this is the whole asset master data. So if I go to asset, so this is an asset which is office on Fifth Avenue. This office has some time dependence. You can define different data, business area. This is a cost center, which plant. This is an example of a asset. You can have a classification key, depreciation, and you can define what kind of depreciation you want, what is the useful life. You can run your depreciations. You can do a schedule manager. That basically means every quarter, every month, you wanted to just schedule, so this payment get posted automatically without any problem. Okay. So we can do fixed assets. And then if you go to controlling, the controlling, as I discussed, so there is a cost element accounting, there's cost center accounting, there's internal orders, activity costing, product cost accounting, profitability, profit center accounting. And then obviously, if you go down in the information system, and if you go to accounting, then here we have a different reports which are available for the people. And you can run these different reports. These reports which you see here are standard SAP provided by different it's like vendor information system, and you can run all these different reports by different parameters, and they are there. You don't need to do anything. And all these different reports in accounting, financial accounting, treasury, controlling, consolidation. If you go to controlling, these are all inbuilt reports. Report for cost center, plan versus actual comparison. If I want to see for my cost center, what is my plan versus actual, if any data, you can run all these reports. They are all inbuilt reports which are there in the standard SAP system. And these reports, they're for accounting. These reports are also there for the logistics. In fact, if you go to logistics, for example, you go to purchasing, you want to see anything, what kind of information you have, you can run there as well. And these are inbuilt reports. This is not anything you're configuring or something. These reports are there. This is the total purchase value. This is my GOR value. This is my invoice amount. So I want to create any kind of a chart, some kind of, so you can create some graph also if you want to create a graph. So all those things are possible in SAP. Okay, so now coming back to my slide, which I was talking about. So highlight of the FICO course. So we provide a very comprehensive training, focused more on FI and CO. Faculty, many years of background. We have a 60-hour course duration. As for the placement is concerned, yes, we can get you interview with the current business scenario. You can re-attend the course. You can re-attend our course for next 1 year. So we allow that. You get a system access. We provide during the training and after the training, you can have a system access for another 6 months. We actually spend more than 6 months also. You get a training material from us. You get a video from us. You have access to the video for 1 year. We'll do mock interview, help you in the resume preparation. We market you. And we have been very successful. As far as the market is concerned, we help you in cracking interviews and all that. And we also help you on job support. So these are some of the things. And there's my email address. This is the phone number. And So I'm very sure each one of you will have a lot of questions and all that. So what I'm going to do is I have made a note of it. So early next week, we will call you, and I'm sure each one of you will have a lot of questions. So normally what I like to do, I talk to individual because everyone's background is different. No two people are same. Giving general answers, sometimes I feel it's probably not the right approach, because when everyone is different, so that person has to be addressed in same way. So we'll call you next week. My number is 973-885-7245. If you want, you're very welcome to make a note of it. We will call you at least once. We will call you and we'll talk to you, and we will address any questions which you have. Another thing is, you can call me as well as your convenience. This is my email address. You can email me also. So you can do either one of them. You can call me, you can email me, whatever is easy for you. So you can do both of them. And with that, thank you very much, and good night. And I appreciate you coming here, and I appreciate you joining to this session. So thank you very much. Take care.